go, okay, well let's just try and build, say, 2, and then show them to humans and see what they say. I'd like to build, I mean, that's about as far as I got, John. I didn't really prepare, you can tell, so, but I don't know if that raises any questions, or,
Yeah,
I mean...
is each one based on a different museum?
Each museum?
No,
Each box?
is
Well,
based on a different museum.
they could be recombinant, which is a sort of idea I'm generally interested in museum stuff, is that, you know, John mentioned at the beginning that I've lobbed into the heartland of Imperial Museum world, and I come from a land of giant community content systems like Flickr, where nobody really gives a shit what the correct provenance is for this or whatever, but it's a very generous and robust and massive community, you know? So I'm just having that background, coming to the British Museum and just seeing this, you know, we know exactly what's correct and you get lost, and I'm just like, no, that's not the way it works. So really, I mean, the answer to your question is it depends how many models we can find. From where, but the idea is that you know, there could be a pool of up to say 10,000 or 20,000 different objects from all kinds of places. That would be great, like having an international sort of object pool that people could draw from. Like, so if I could say, you know, I'm really interested in shoes, can I have a museum of shoes, please? And you know, you get this really exciting box tied up with string and that comes to your mailbox, and I just think that'd be so much fun. And then, you know, these could be like baseball cards. So I've got my pillar, so can I have your, you know, whatever it is? Which is another thing that comes back to the design of the box. The box itself needs to know what's in it, which is kind of a nice design problem to have. Like, how do we tell people what these things all mean? And if you move one thing from one box to another, can the box know that?
Oh, so it's going to be Ultronic box?
Don't know. I think so, just because the internet's awesome, and, you know.
You thought about augmented reality with the rise of mobile phone apps?
I think it would be super fun to be able to stick this on an iPad and have stuff happen. I'm in two minds about augmented reality, just because I think it's so janky that I just don't know how to make it just feel like magic. But I think when you're dealing with physical objects, it's sort of, the magic's a little more achievable, just because you can, because this being a trigger to do something, I think is a really important idea. I don't need to put anything on, I don't need to, you know, I can just imagine building a sort of housing that closes a switch that looks like something that Buddha would sit on, you know. Or maybe he sits under a tree or something, I don't know.
Is it Disney that do those little figurines and they put them on the game and there's some sort of interactive?
I was thinking
Skylanders.
That's it, Skylander. That was it. It's Skylander.
Can I just be really museum-y and touch?
Of course, yeah.
Oh no!
I think it's like such a brilliant little invention, because I can imagine you sit with someone and go, I don't know what that is, and you stick it on something and it talks to you, or someone else, like the Skylanders, and you have a dialogue, and then you could use Doreen's idea of the Moby bus and go in and go, I found an object. Can I create it in 3D? Can that go into the museum? Because this is my music. This is my own museum I've created, like of my collections.
So is this the new interface for putting things in a museum? So you can start.
The new old Wunderkammer.
Yeah, you start with the scanner, and that's how stuff goes into the museum, rather than sending an army over to another continent and subjugating it and taking all their objects.
Oh yeah, you download it to a scanner somewhere, don't you? You print it at home.
They just emailed a file to space, apparently, the International Space Station for some repair part.
And the Smithsonian.
Can I have a word?
Yeah.
What about the statues around which have been torn down for war-torn areas? Have you thought about that?
No, that's a great idea. Like it's like a restoration project or something. You mean? Like, how could we?
What do they look like then? Now?
Great, love it.
There.
I mean,
some are existing now, but
the challenge
next
is
week,
doing.
2 weeks.
The challenge is having a 3D capture that can be used to print these things. And you know, I can imagine maybe a sort of elevation style sketch of old sculptures that exist, but I don't know.
There must be films that go around these.
I love the
idea.
There are various different preservation bodies across the world that will have data like that you could augment in some way, or that would have the images of it.
Love it.
That's really interesting.
It's okay, but here's the challenge. So to make this prototype set cost me £150, which immediately is a very difficult price point, and it took weeks.
That is a
3D
lot.
printing's
I
slow,
was just going to say.
and it's bloody expensive.
Yeah.
So it's such a great idea, but I'm like, well, what the hell do I do now?
Well, 3Defy,
Yeah.
who work in the fuse box, 3Defy, who some of us know, have been working really hard on making scanning a really easy thing, and scanning really big objects a really easy thing.
Scanning's not the hard part, John. It's
It's the
printing.
printing.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Are they
materials.
printing more quickly?
They are printing, and also not expensively either.
Mhm.
I mean, we can go in there and have our body scanned and printed, and yeah, it takes like maybe a day or something, but they're just doing it, I mean, for free at the moment. I mean, it's meant to be a
Yeah.
business, but
But that's funded somewhere. So
Yeah.
how much is it costing?
Yeah.
They're sort of rent free because they make the fuse box look good at the moment when every application.
Oh, I didn't take that.
That's not recorded that way. But, I think it's technically called a quid pro quo. Everybody benefits, but yeah, if there's a favour to be offered, I'm sure they're not.
I
So there's
appreciate
a-
that. But so, looping it back to the challenge of productising
Yeah.
this thing,
Long term.
the next 2 weeks in Somerset House for me is about generating content about the idea. It's about taking photos of people that come and say hi. I'm using it as sort of a visitor centre to attract
Yeah.
anyone who's interested in what I'm up to come and visit and touch the things and muck around. I'm also inviting people who can make those little Arduino-y, switch things, which I don't know very little about. So, we're going to be basically documenting the next 2 weeks.
Are you going to be using that to get some, like, what can happen with this next? Get that.
Exactly.
Get those people who can actually, I imagine is this for younger people or is this for anyone?
Actually, I think there's a really interesting reminiscence therapy angle
Yeah.
to this.
Oh, it's there's an initiative with the Alzheimer's Association. That I think could be interesting around this, is around memory. This is what we were talking about earlier. The physical is such an emotive thing.
Right.
So yeah, I think that there's something. There's the commodification of it would obviously be for younger people and all that kind of line. But I think as an actual tool for beyond that, it would be really fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's not just about. It wouldn't just be about museum pieces. It could be for so many
But
different
it's
things.
also about curation. It's about how curation is developing. So it's
Yeah.
it could be a tool for that, I guess. And curate, how you translate ideas into being or something. Cameron just pointed at me and I lost.
Also, blind people, because they can't actually see an exhibition.
Yeah, we
they
thought,
can actually
yes,
touch it.
Maybe there could be a big plinth like this that had braille on it, so you could understand that. Like when I touch this, I've got no idea that it's from Mexico. I'm just like, I
So
don't know how to translate that.
have you been able to speak to anyone who actually deals with, works with people, visually impaired people, about the tactility of an object?
Well, just beginning to, yeah. But my partner Tom, he's going to take this set to the Lewisham Library and just put it in front of some. I don't think they're blind though, but it's just that's what the point of this prototype set is, so we can just take it places
Just find out what happens with it.
Yeah.
Because you're at that point, and that's a
Yeah.
really, really exciting bit.
Right. But then I've got this price point, which is a nightmare.
So that's about actually. You can't really work out how much things cost till you've printed something out like this, which is what several people have said today so far, isn't it? You have to start doing something to work out where the scope of it is, where the size of it is, and where the economics of it are. So it could be that really the thing that you're selling or the thing that you experience is the digital file rather than the printout.
That's contentious, John.
Well, I don't agree with it myself. I mean, it's like the Smithsonian has this week just released 30,000 3D files.
Oh, really? I
Of
didn't know that.
objects. Yeah. So, but
Can you use them?
how would you go and print them out? Where would I go to print out a file that I've downloaded from the Smithsonian website?
Museum
Why-
box, obviously.
Yeah. So actually, so the economics of it start to shape, because then what you do is you say to Hewlett Packard with their new, very much cheaper 3D printer, do you want to try your 3D printer in my museum? And they say yes, because this will be a place where people can come and see it in a much more user-centric setting. So there's that, but that's not a sustainable economic argument, that's someone sponsoring the activity.
Yeah.
But at last you start to see some kind of plausible economic picture. I mean, I think that 3D printers are going to get really, really cheap, but they're not going to get really, really cheap for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we might see street corner 3D printer shops, like we used
this
to
could
with
be rubber
photocopying.
or any other material as well. Like, if we could make a mould out of this guy and then just manufacture it in a different format. Like 3D printing, the problem is it's really slow.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you know, it prints like
line
this.
by line, yeah.
And it's, you know, I don't know how, this guy probably took half.
So actually, in the context of the Moby bus, you sort of, you take some 3D printed objects and you get people thinking about digital files, then you get people thinking about how would you actually make that using wood with some tools.
Yeah.
So it's also a way into thinking about making.
Other applications of it that are interesting to me, I did an MA at Central St Martin's a few years back in design studies, and one of the people on my course, I was just thinking when you put this up and the point came up about memory, another student on the course did NFC tags and a reader with objects for memory for older people
great.
project.
Okay.
NFC tags.
Near field communication.
It just means
So like the
these
Oyster
things know when
card.
they're close to each other.
Yeah, like the Oyster card in London, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
So, that came to mind, and
Yeah.
another thing that came to mind was I did a bit of research for Culture 24, which is how I got to know John, about 4 or 5 years ago actually, around the time I was doing my MA. And I was looking at the potential applications of metadata sets that Culture 24 could develop as core of its business model, because it basically looks after data sets and develops data sets, things like gallery exhibitions and so on.
I'm familiar with the work.
You know the work?
Yeah.
And I took the view that they should enable data sets for games designers about objects in collections and essentially create infrastructure to enable games developers to access objects as stimulus for creating entirely new games that haven't been invented yet. That it just collides at this moment in time. Just thinking back to what I was envisaging at that time, I was developing game prototypes with young offenders, and you know, as a way of occupying, and this just makes me think. Yeah, there's about 10 different games in this for different age groups, and so the people I really wanted to emulate at business model level were Games Workshop, you know, who make battle games.
Yeah, like Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer. And that's where I was going. I was trying to get Culture 24 to, on the nation's behalf, create
So the challenge for me then,
an asset library that makes all of us potential games developers throughout schooling, which was the basic essence of my MA.
Last few minutes.
Anyway.
I was just going to end with, because my parking's about to run out too, it may already have. But so the challenge for me is to try to make this, construct this in such a way that that does let you use it in the manner to which you want to use it. Like, there's no way I can possibly design for every, and nor should I design for every possible use of these things. But
that's part of like your when you get out there and do your research and start talking to people, and it's honing it down, as opposed to. I think this is one of the things that we kind of like think it could be. Well, where's your audience? It's everybody. Everybody can do this.
I don't believe that either.
You will be driven by the when you've got your 2 weeks at Somerset House. That will be an amazing opportunity, and that'll help you with your honing. Who is this going to be for? And it might be that it's not at all who you thought it was going to be.
Totally.
Invite the most diverse group of people. Be my
and assume nothing.
I thought I could take a picture of them all every day to see how grubby they're getting.
Yeah.
Deteriorated.